Hey Bulldogs, Chris Bryant, the Computer Certification Bulldog here, and got a CCNP route video practice exam and tutorial and fundamental command review all in one. So we're going to dive right into this in just a moment. I got a couple of practice exam questions for you. We're going to tackle those. We're going to see the answers on live Cisco equipment, and I've also got a big new series of CCNP route videos starting up. So even if you're just thinking about getting started on this really challenging exam, you really want to make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel while you're at here so you don't miss one. Let's go ahead and dive into question one here, and this is the classic question. I have to ask it at some kind of rule, but obviously, all kidding aside, it's very important. What port does BGP use to form and maintain adjacencies? There's no more sinking feeling than applying an ACL and you think, okay, I got this done, and all of a sudden some other adjacencies go down. So we've got to know what port to leave open to form and maintain our BGP adjacencies. Got some long multiple choices for you in this one, because what I'm going to show you is the show IP BGP neighbor command. We'll see this on the live equipment in a moment, and the adjacency is going to be shown as active. And we know at this point in our studies that sometimes active is good and sometimes active is not so good, right? Like a stuck inactive route with EIGRP. Well, in BGP, if you see a neighbor output as active, is that good or bad? And if it's bad, I need you to tell me which one of these three reasons makes it bad. Because of course, especially at the NP level, we're moving up in our career, we got to know, how to fix something. We can't just say, yeah, that's not good. We got to know why it's not good. So which one of those three choices would it be? Let's head to the next question. Those of you who are taking my NP route course right now, you're used to this phrase, valid and best. What two symbols next to a route in BGP indicate a route that is both valid and best? Because that's what we want in BGP. And then finally, a question really unique to BGP, because we don't really worry about whether something is directly connected or not with our protocols such as OSPF, EIGRP, and RIP. But under what circumstances does BGP consider loopback interfaces to be directly connected? Because as they say, it is kind of a big deal in BGP whether something a network is directly connected to another or not. So let's dive back to the first question here, and then we'll bring the live equipment up. This of course is TCP port 179. Got to know that one, because if you put something on there, you put an ACL in a lab or something that's blocking that port, and your BGP adjacencies are up, then they're going to come crashing down. So we got to remember that one. Now, as far as this command goes, excuse me, that was not a subliminal advertisement for the Richmond Spiders. It just looked that way. Moved my mouse a little too much to the side. Show IP BGP neighbor. I'm going to bring that up, and I am going to have to scroll on you a little bit because I kept bringing this up or running this command as I was building an adjacency, because there's something very important I wanted you to see while we discuss this. The command again is show IP BGP summary. Let me scroll over just a tad and show you this important information here at the end. I had an adjacency between these two neighbors, and then I tore it down. So while I was waiting for it to rebuild, you'll notice at the beginning the state is idle. There are other states besides idle and active, but those are the only two we're going to see here. About 20 seconds later, I ran the same command, and it went to active. And active is not what we want here. It's a good sign. It means we're getting our adjacency, but it's not finished yet. And if it sits inactive for a while, say a couple of minutes, then you've got to fix something. We're going to discuss just what that is in just a moment. This is actually what we want, and this looks pretty bizarre, right? We want a number at the end of this. Well, this shows us how many prefixes we've received from that neighbor. That's what this odd little batch of letters here at the very end means. And in a moment, you'll see where that increments, because I added a route to this before I began this recording so we would be able to answer one other question. But again, active is not good, and bringing the choices back up, the reason that it's bad is B, because the local router has sent a BGP open packet to the remote router, but it hasn't heard anything back yet. Let's take on that next question. What two symbols indicate a BGP route that is both valid and best? We'll bring the live equipment back up, and I'll scroll all the way down here. and I ran the show IP BGP command, here is the route that I added so we'd have something to look at here. And notice, by the way, the show IP BGP summary output on router 3 now shows a 1 here because it's received a prefix from that particular neighbor. This is what we want. We've got to have an asterisk and an arrowhead, as I call it. You can call it whatever you want, but those are the two symbols that stand for valid and best. That indicates the route that's actually being used. And if we have multiple paths here, which we certainly could, you may see asterisks next to all of them. And that's great because that means they're all valid. And of course, with BGP, we're concerned about routing loops. But what we want to see and what we've got to know is that the route that's going to be in use is the one that's marked valid and best. It's not enough just to be marked valid. And if you've gotten into BGP studies so far, you know there's a long path selection, right? A lot of different factors come into play. And we'll talk about those in another video as well. This one, though, under what circumstances are loopbacks considered directly connected by BGP? And as a bonus question, I should have asked, why do we care? Well, the reason that we care is that quite often with routers, even this simple little config I've got here, 2 routers over point-to-point network, the problem is that we may use loopback interfaces to create the adjacency. And that's actually a good idea. It's very commonplace. But if you're doing that, you may have to use some extra commands because BGP does not consider, and there we go, just that highlight. BGP does not consider loopback interfaces to be directly connected. As a matter of fact, I'm going to jot down a note right now because that's going to be my next CCNP route tutorial for you Bulldogs, is showing you exactly why we care about that and the extra commands that go along with it. But again, BGP does not consider loopbacks to be directly connected even if they're on the same subnet. It does not matter. Thanks for watching today's CCNP route video. I hope you'll join me out on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, of course, where you likely are, and the blog. And again, I've got a new series of NP videos coming up, so make sure to subscribe to that YouTube channel, and you'll see every single one. I'll see you then. I'm Bryant, the Computer Certification Bulldog.